Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into the massive Ontario-Michigan waste corridor. Now, to put this in perspective, right now Michigan imports a staggering 3.46 million tons of municipal solid waste from Ontario every single year. That's over 14% of all waste disposed of in Michigan landfills. But today, we're going to see how one company, 905 Wood, is turning this massive liability, truckloads of refuse shipped across the U.S. border for disposal, into a highly lucrative, tariff-exempt financial instrument using Edge AI. We're breaking down a platform they call the digital refinery. And this isn't your standard recycling gig. They've fundamentally reimagined this entire cross-border waste workflow, turning chaotic construction refuse into an auditable, high-yield asset. So how exactly do you short a landfill? Well, let's dive into this pretty provocative question, because it completely reframes traditional waste disposal into a Wall Street-style trade against a steepening price curve. Normally, we think of waste management as just a one-way trip to a dump, right? But shorting the landfill means actually taking a short position on the residual value of a load that's routed for disposal. Basically, 905 Wood is betting that the price of not burying clean wood will skyrocket way faster than the cost of their own compliance infrastructure. They literally capture this spread. Here's our quick roadmap for today. First, the looming capacity cliff. Second, shorting the landfill. Third, the sentient AI bridge. Fourth, the 6-layer architecture. Fifth, the cross-border trade shield. And finally, number 6, the biocarbon payout. Starting with Section 1, the looming capacity cliff. We're looking at an absolute perfect storm of immovable deadlines and intense trade policies coming out of both Washington and Ontario. Up north, Ontario Premier Doug Ford's government is staring down a hard 2034 landfill exhaustion date. It's a literal capacity cliff written right into provincial legislation. Meanwhile, across the border, Michigan is proposing a massive 14 times tipping fee hike, bumping it to $5. And if that wasn't enough pressure, under Donald Trump's CUSMA and USMCA trade frameworks, sweeping Section 338 actions out of Washington are slapping a massive 50% duty on finished Canadian wood and paper starting August 19th. The cross-border pressure is just immense right now. And what's really fascinating here is how the CRCIL levy financially penalizes mixed waste, which makes accurate, on-the-spot sorting worth, well, millions. Think about this spread for a second. For a single 14-yard mothership trailer, which holds about 19.15 tons, clean wood is levied at just $5 a ton. But if that load is deemed mixed, boom, it skyrockets to $60 a ton. That literally turns a $95 levy into an $1,100 penalty overnight. No way you want to get caught on the wrong side of that. Moving on to Section 2, shorting the landfill. The crucial takeaway here is that we're not just throwing around circular economy buzzwords. This is a legitimate arbitrage play that captures the spread as the value of diverting wood from a landfill skyrockets. In the old school model, you pay to move the trash, you pay to dump it, and whatever residual value is left just stays at the landfill. But the digital refinery? It completely inverts this. It treats the dumpster as an actual financial asset. Because they divert that clean wood, they generate climate removal certificates on the biocarbon market, completely retaining those sweet carbon dividends. Which brings us to Section 3, the sentient AI bridge. The compliance officer is a smartphone. I love this quote because it brilliantly illustrates how a commercially available smartphone is replacing an entire regulatory department right at the edge of the dumpster. It's a total paradigm shift. We're no longer talking about mailing samples to a lab and waiting 2 weeks for a result. The compliance verification is happening live, out in the field, right in the palm of the operator's hand. So by running this massive Edge AI tech stack right at the source, the system generates a cryptographically secure hold-to-seal signature before a truck even starts its engine. They're operationalizing the Google Pixel 10 Pro running Android 16. It leverages the powerful LightArt AI stack to run a specialized Gemma 4 Edge to business model. It scans the bin and classifies the wood in under 500 milliseconds, half a second. And because it ties directly into the phone's Titan M2 hardware root of trust, that decision is cryptographically locked. It is 100% tamper-proof. Let's look at Section 4, the 6-layer architecture. This pipeline rigorously guarantees compliance, moving all the way from that initial smartphone scan in Layer 1 down to converting pyrogenic biocarbon into registered climate certificates in Layer 6. So Layer 1 is that Pixel 10 Pro we just talked about. Layer 2 handles the heavy lifting, the physical movement via those massive walking floor motherships. Layer 3 automatically files all the regulatory paperwork through APIs, dealing with the request for quote and internal verifications based entirely on the AI's data. Layer 4 decouples the billing. Layer 5 handles the digital refinery's UI/UX output PDF documentation for cross-border reporting. And Layer 6 scientifically validates the carbon removal for the open market. Every single step traces perfectly back to that first half-second AI scan. It's like a giant, flawless digital paper trail.
On to Section 5, Cross-Border Trade Shield.
So how do you actually bypass those looming 50% tariffs? Well, because the AI perfectly classified the wood back at Layer 1, this automated UI/UX PDF documentation legally shields the load. If you remember those massive USMCA tariffs coming out of Washington that we touched on earlier, this is the silver bullet. By accurately and defensively classifying the clean wood under the specific USMCA exempt code HS3825.0, the exported load stays safely outside the tariff wall. The system automatically spits out a 9-point certificate of origin. It's an ironclad, audit-grade paper trail that easily survives any border inspection.
And finally, Section 6, the biocarbon payout.
$1,053. That right there is the exact amount of money saved in circle levies on a single 144-yard mother shipload of verified clean wood versus mixed waste. Just by using the AI to confidently lock in the clean band right at the bin, a company instantly avoids over $1,000 in provincial penalties on a single truck. And you know what? That's just the cost avoidance side of the equation.
Check out this staggering number. Nearly $80 million, specifically $79,660,000. That is the spot-high annualized value of the carbon dividend for a pretty modest mid-market fleet, moving just 200 loads a week. Just let that sink in for a second. By retaining 100% of the carbon dividends generated from turning this wood into pyrogenic biocarbon, the digital refinery evolves from a simple waste removal service into a colossal environmental asset generator.
Breaking this down vividly illustrates the total payout of the trade, proving without a doubt that the carbon dividend, not the base disposal fee, is the true load-bearing profit center. Just think about the spread here. The basic levy avoidance saves a very solid $10.75 million a year. But the real magic happens in the biocarbon market. Even at conservative book value, those climate certificates pull in over $28 million. And at the current spot high premium, boom, nearly $80 million. The base disposal fees are basically just there to pay for the trucks and infrastructure. The carbon dividend is the true profit engine here. I want to leave you with this final thought. 905 Wood's digital refinery is quite literally the sentient bridge between chaotic municipal solid waste and the incredibly high purity requirements of the global biocarbon market. By operationalizing the Google Pixel 10 Pro and the LightRT AI stack, they aren't just saving money, they're actually securing Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy. So it really makes you wonder, if a smartphone can do all this, what other hidden financial assets are just waiting to be realized in your own operations? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.